Okay.
Actually. There's the one on the fly. Okay.
Can we gas this, please?
So I'll take my pixel 4.
Please.
I'll head back down to the office and hold up some of this stuff.
Take this with you.
Okay.
I don't think I'm gonna need my phone to gas.
Sorry to stick you with that. I just.
That's right.
mustache.
I want to go. I want to go. Thank you.
Would anybody else like a rainbow? Anyone else?
What's that? I said what's that?
There we go.
Not yet.
How much time?
No, 52.
I got 8 minutes.
Right. Mine's
I'm
close.
gonna take a little drink and
Okay. I'm just here.
this water doesn't fall. Make sure your mouth is put in the microphone. Really, the only audience. One public speaking trick is to pick 2 or 3 people in the audience, look at one, then look at another. Or you could just be looking at different people each time. It makes the audience feel more inclusive, like they're talking directly to them instead of to the crowd. You should let us know when you talk in public. So. Well, my father taught it to me, and then I've been electing it ever since. I've really polished a lot, taken a lot of courses, and learned a lot of what not to do. I don't even bother to do it. It's not like I have a problem with it. There we go.
Conjunction.
Spaghetti!
God, that Mario TV show is not good. They did a Mario cartoon a while ago. And it was not good. I used to watch it on like, it was on the same channel that My Little Pony.
Electric.
What did it used to call? What was it?
Let's see what we have here. Motion books. Snow maybe? Nope. Yeesh.
Good?
No, my laptop's too old. None of these connectors work on it. Video will wait till the answer. It's almost time, right?
9:55.
Well, we're 5 minutes early. So big deal. We'll start.
Okay then.
We're talking about the day the kids sat still, Saturday morning, and its continuing legacy. The year of Saturday morning cartoons and their continuing legacy. And we're going to have audiovisual aids as soon as Brian gets here with his laptop because mine is not compatible. So between 1962 and 1990, mumble, there were, every Saturday morning, there'd be a whole bunch of cartoons to watch. And I thought that was really cool. It was the only day I woke up early, which my mother hated. And some of them were garbage, some of them were pap, some of them were really cool. Some got remade later. And then in the 1990s, there were groups like Actions for Television and Mothers Against Fun in America, MAFIA. And We Can Eliminate Fun in Your Lifetime. And groups like that decided that Kidbit had to be dumbed down and made less hard-edged and made more educational and.
Love
My favorite example was okay, a bunch of this was led by a bunch of people who were child psychologists. The most prominent of which, there were like 4 individuals, all of whom had no siblings and no children. And And they're child psychologists who, oh, I spent dozens of hours talking to children, so I know it better than you, your mother or your father. Yeah, I know it way better. And they came up with this thing of, let's have a non-emulative clause. Nothing the kids do should be, nothing that the kids see on cartoons that's violent or antisocial or bad, is something that a child could emulate, a child could do on their own. And they wanted to show that there was no pain, and no harm, and no consequences. Later on it got to the point where they're saying, and no threats. No one's ever going to be under threat of pain. No tension, no drama, no fun. But my favorite example was one of these consultants came on, a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, I don't remember which one, there were legions of them, where they had, they're going to fire a machine gun, they're going to fire a machine gun. And the heroes were going to be missed, but because the author wanted to have something in the way of dramatic tension, he's going to shoot a branch off the tree. So the consultant psychologist said, well, make sure the branch is colored a different color so everyone knows it's dead, so all the kids know that the tree wasn't hurt. Trees don't have nerves. They can't be hurt. They don't feel pain. But this doofus was pushing this garbage on them. So it was censored. And then TV, and then the network said, hey, you know, we're required to run educational comment. It costs a lot of money to make a cartoon, and it takes weeks of lead time to make an episode. We could throw together a documentary on animals and nothing flat. You know, and one of the major networks said, hey, you know, we can run sports on Saturday mornings. If you want to switch seats, I'm good. Yeah, let's do that. No, please and thank you. Good morning, class. Well, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Robert Fenelon. I've been pushing anime at conventions since 1981, and back in 1986 I started the first English language anime magazine and got it distributed throughout the comic book distribution system all over English-speaking North America. I used to cosplay, I used to cosplay Judge, and I blather at panels and try to keep people from falling asleep in boredom. I also like training other people to speak in public and getting them over their nervousness. Like, for example.
Hi, I'm Caroline. I'm kind of under their tutelage because I'm the youngest one of our collective group, and I swear I like talking in public, and I swear I'm not usually this nervous.
He's a panel virgin.
Yeah, what he said.
Sacrifice the virgin.
What? Sacrifice the virgin, yeah. Throw over the volcano quick before we come to our senses.
The volcano ropes anyway.
Okay. We have
But yeah, I've been watching anime since I was like 5 years old, cartoons, and I kind of never stopped.
And when we mentioned that, there's, Saturday morning cartoons are a thing of the past, she said, no, they're not. And that's how she got on this panel.
Yes.
We're going to, once the technical arrangements are made, we're going to show a little of this animation, some of the old stuff, some of the new stuff. It was during American animation went through a very low part. It was the nadir of American animation. Almost all the art schools stopped teaching how to animate. Very few of the animation studios survived, and most of what we had was a million different clones of Scooby-Doo. A band of teenagers who were a relatively unsuccessful rock band hanging out with an annoying animal sidekick like Jabberjaw, the land shark, or Grape Ape, the largish monkey, or the Groovy Ghoulies, the ghost guy. There was just, and it was, one of the problems with American animation at the time is everything's flat side scrollers. Characters run on one side of the screen, run to the other side of the screen. Everything's two-dimensional, it's like you're looking at a stage. Then some anime started coming over and we said, oh my God, this thing has 3 dimensions. They're like fighter planes zipping up and down in outer space. One ship is upside down oriented to another ship. And you're like, wow, this is so cool!
Combat doesn't have to look like a Street Fighter game.
And here's the Gotchaman.
Now that would look better.
Battle of the Planets was dubbed 3 times in English. The Science Ninja Team Gotchaman was dubbed 3 times. First Battle of the Planets, then G-Force, then Eagle Riders. And if you can put that picture up again.
Which one?
The God Phoenix. With the fire in front.
The what?
The fiery Phoenix. The one that was just up.
No, oh, that.
Yeah, this cool show. The merchandise of which, some of it was imported to America, called this the God Felix. Instead of God Phoenix. Gotchaman was, weekday afternoons. It played in 1977, 78. And the origins of this story are kind of cool. When you go and buy a television show, you go to a convention like NATP or CISP, National Association of Producers Television, and the people who are selling the cartoon will show 2 episodes. And we'll have a brochure saying, here's why you should buy our show. Tatsunoko Pro, the people who made Gotchaman, had been showing up at NAPI forever trying to sell their cartoons in America. And Star Wars hit, and all of a sudden science fiction is big, and everyone discovered that they always wanted to do science fiction. Because it makes money. And so this American producer named Sandy Frank buys Science Ninja Team Gotchaman based on 2 episodes he saw, and then starts reviewing the episodes, which included a lot of bloody, violent death. Lots and lots and lots. And he's like, oh my God, I can't sell this on American television. So they cut the 23 episodes down to about 21 minutes. They're chopping off pieces of every episode. And they got some really low budget animation that they inserted. And you can tell that this is drawn by completely different people. And he showed those 2 good episodes to the people, to the convention for the program directors of television, and they bought it because it looked great. But he said, you gotta pay this cash up front. And he was the first person with science fiction since Star Wars came out, so everyone jumped at it. And it did terrible in the ratings, because it really talked down to the kids. And so a year later, Claude Hill shows up with Star Blazers, and he says, this is a science fiction set in the future, which is done with Japanese animation. Everybody said, we tried that Jap crap last year, it failed. No.
So now that I'm all plugged in and ready,
we can start.
Let's set the mood. Damn it. Welcome to the day the kids sat still, everybody. So, back in the day, that was how kids knew things were going to get fun all of a sudden. That's usually what was that was used for the intro for various family programming, usually around 5 to 7, about 6 to 7 o'clock was CBS's Family Hour. That's where they would tuck in things like Peanuts, Watership Down, things like that. Yeah, Watership Down, I swear to God, was broken up into 2 episodes and broadcast on national television. Uncut.
Because if it's a cartoon, it's obviously safe for kids just by the fact that it's a cartoon.
Yeah, it was also based on a classic novel, so that it had that literary oomph behind it.
Mommy, why are those bunnies bleeding?
Oh, bunnies! Yay, bunnies! Oh my God, they're killing each other! This is awesome! Yeah, I would love to see how many kids were like that during the from the late 70s to the early 80s. So. Saturday morning cartoon. So, just out of curiosity, who here was, okay, let's set some vague ground rules. Generally, what is considered to be the Saturday morning cartoon era is roughly from the mid-60s, early mid-60s, all the way on through to the mid-90s. Yes, there were things that were shown on Saturday morning before the mid-60s. But what is often looked at as the golden era of Saturday morning cartoons is a rough 30-some-odd year span during that time from where it started really kick off to, or so where it started really come into its own, and then its decline starting roughly around the mid-90s. But one of the things that I realized when I came up with this panel is I can't limit it to just what's on Saturday morning. all right? Because that would cut out a lot of classics. That means the weekday afternoon stuff that we saw in syndication would be cut out. No Transformers, no G.I. Joe, no Thundercats, no way. No He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, no. So for my fellow panelists, this is meant to cover the era of cartoons that is often referred to as generically Saturday morning cartoons. Now, further breakdowns. There are categories. There seems to be 4 big categories to go by. There are shows that were obviously meant to drive toys and merchandise. All right, that's a given. 2, shows that were educational. There were, and we'll be talking about this, we touched on this, pressure from parents groups to get more educational content and to try to, cut down on violence and manipulative advertising that was being given to kids. Which, of course, the first part of that is definitely, removing the fun. Let's see. Shows that play off a cultural touchstone, something that was important in people's minds, be it a person, a concept, a thing, that was then spun off into a cartoon or inspired a cartoon. And then filler. Shows that were, pretty much meant to pack the schedule. Hey, we need something cheap and fast to pad the schedule. There's no toys behind it. Maybe we can get some toys out there, some merch, some stickers, some coloring books, but it's not commissioned by a toy company. And then there's the legacy that is left behind, which is why I'm sure many of you who did not grow up watching Saturday morning cartoons, who was born after in the legacy eras, watching cartoons from the mid-90s and on, like Caroline here. All right, so now we're going to wrap up. We're going to wrap up with a question that I'm going to ask you now. What is your favorite Saturday morning cartoon? No, don't answer now. Sit on it, think about it, let it stew for a little bit. And then when we come to the end of the presentation, then we'll ask around and see what people's favorites were, because during the course of this, you might be reminded of something that you forgot about, or something that you'd never heard of, something to chew on for later. So, toys. Now, Rob, you were not really a big toy buyer, were you? No? I was. Who was? Oh yeah! Yeah. Who are some great examples? Big one. Hell yeah! Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Huge franchise for that. My Little Pony.
Tom and Jerry and Pink Panther.
Ooh, Tom and Jerry was actually really big.
They may have, those had merch, but they weren't commissioned by a toy company.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, Pink Panther was playing. That's more of a cultural touchstone, because that was playing off a series of movies that came out in the 60s and 70s. But let's see, someone mentioned who mentioned Care Bears? Yeah, good call there. Oh, yes. Garfield started off as a comic, but oh yeah, that was a huge merchandising empire. I read a story where someone who was working with Jim Davis, the creator of Garfield, was saying, he's negotiating with someone for something, and then meanwhile someone says, "Sir, we've got the sculpt for the new plastic Garfield toy." He's like, "Let me take a look at it." He's like, "No, you know what? This doesn't work. This doesn't work." And it's like, "But sir, changing that'll cost something like $25,000 or $50,000 in '80s dollars." And he's like, "And?" Yes. Oh yeah, a real American hero, because no one is half the battle. The other half of the battle is red lasers and blue lasers. The pink. What's that? Oh yeah, yeah. Who here like either became a music nerd or got into rock music because of Gem and the Holograms? Yeah, I see a few hands. Yeah, you know who was a big fan of that? Pink. Yeah, in an interview she was saying, "I used to run home after school so I could watch Gem and the Holograms, essentially duke it out with the Misfits." I saw a hand go up back there. Yes.
There's a little bit of trivia about Garfield. He was named after the character in the comic strip was named after Jim Davis's grandfather.
Okay, that works.
Garfield Davis. and he was named in turn after a U.S. president.
Yep, James Garfield. Pinkwig. Inspector Gadget, not toy-driven. That was. Okay. Here we're getting into like the Venn diagram overlap here. Definitely filler, but also definitely inspired by a cultural touchstone, such as what you brought up.
Yeah, and also I was actually thinking of like, for example, I know that Looney Tunes isn't like, toy driven and stuff like that, but there were some merchandise or something like that, but around the 60s and 70s they had like...
Any toy property that came out, or any cartoon that came out, there's going to be someone saying, how can we make money off of this? Who here watched The Toys That Made Us? And who here remembers what the very first episode was and why? Only a couple. Way in the back. Nope. You want to take this one, Robert?
No.
Star Wars made me a fortune, paid off the mortgage, bought me a car. Yeah, George Lucas, to get his movie done, took a hit on his salary as a director, but got the rights to the merchandising. Basically, got all merchandising rights for Star Wars. 20th Century Fox wasn't interested in it. They were like, whatever. And oh my God, talk about a merchandising franchise.
We need to get toys on the shelves before Christmas. Physically impossible. We don't have enough time. So we're going to sell them the empty boxes that the toys go in with a voucher saying they can get the toy later.
Yep.
And it worked.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it did.
People paid money for empty boxes. It was great.
The beginning of pre-orders.
Yeah. Let's see. So, but we do have some clips here and there. I'm surprised I don't have G.I. Joe on here, but that's fine. So, here's an old favorite that played off both a cultural touchstone and merchandise, but in this case more books than anything else. This one's a book that over time has shown to be a big favorite with a lot of people.
Untie them if you can, thank you.
Hey, look! The Dungeons and Dragons ride! Wow, neat!
Give me a break.
I don't like this! Whoa! What's happening? Whoa! Where are we? Look out!
Fear not, Ranger. Barbarian, magician, thief, cavalier, and acrobat.
Who was that?
That was Venger, the force of evil. I am Dungeon Master, your guide in the realm of Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, shush. No, actually, to be fair, I mean, if you go back and watch a lot of these shows that are cultural icons, Thundercats lives in people's hearts and minds. You go back and watch these episodes, it's kind of painful. Yeah. So you know that old saying, "Don't meet your heroes." Yeah, there's a bit of a groove there. I remember rewatching Voltron for the first time in a long time, and I was like, "Wow, oh my God, this is not good." But compared to what was out at the time, so
I was flipping channels one Saturday morning, and I saw the Ranger from Dungeons and Dragons, blonde-haired guy with a green carrack with a little medieval type pleating on it. And I said, "Holy smokes, that's Charaznable from Mobile Suit Gundam," because that's what their Geon spacesuit looked like. And I turned back, and it's like, no, this is not Gundam.
But
a lot of people have really good memories of Dungeons and Dragons, including some people down in Brazil who sell cars.
Brazil or Europe? One of the two. Is it Brazil?
This one's Brazil. The other one's Italy. So they put together more money than was spent on the. They put together more money than was spent on the entire entire TV series to make a commercial. Concept for this commercial or directed it obviously was like, okay, this is the ending we all wanted because the show never had an official ending. Now the series developer, not creator, but the series developer, Mark Evanier, a guy who was writing a blog before they were even called blogs, longtime cartoon writer. He's the guy who developed Dungeons & Dragons, took the materials and squoze it down into something that could actually work. Has written a bit about this. He has a great story of how he almost hijacked the show, and then a year or so, months or a year later, ended up getting the job and the wackiness that happened. I highly recommend you find the story. It is hilarious. But what is also included is out there is also the script for the last episode. So it's been scripted. It was scripted, it was just never animated. These things happen.
Having with Star Wars, Clone Wars, they had it written, they had it not even half, a quarter animated, and it took them a decade to actually finish it.
Okay. Yeah. Now, and this show, part of the appeal for me for this show is something I've talked about a lot at other panels, is the Japanese-American co-production thing that was going on a lot in the 80s and 90s with, American animation studios reaching out to Japanese studios for their animation services, and that show was one of them. I think, was that Toei? I think? I don't know.
You mean Toei Animation?
Yeah. If it's not Toei, it's definitely one of their, it was definitely someone around the time of their heyday.
The studio that did the most co-pros with American and French cartoon companies was Tokuma Shoten.
That was Tokyo Movie Shinsha.
Right, Tokuma Shoten is a publishing house.
There's a
Tokyo Movie Shinsa, TMS. And they did a couple of co-pros with some French companies and a couple of co-pros with American companies. They also did a co-pro that was Brazilian, Canadian, Japanese. It was called Cyber 6. Ran like 7 episodes, I think. It was pretty cool, very slick, very noir.
Let's see. There we go. So actually, well, toys are, the toy stuff is pretty self-explanatory. Why don't we, do you want to move on to cultural touchstones?
Yes.
Okay. Someone named something that was popular in the 80s.
Rambo. Transformers. Wrestling.
Okay, Transformers started as a cartoon first. I'm talking about something outside of cartoons that could be made into something else.
Rambo is
Rambo was made to a cartoon.
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future, yes. Ghostbusters.
Gremlins.
Gremlins? Was Gremlins animated?
Yes, it was.
One?
Nice.
All the way back.
I can think of any other R-rated property that turned into a cartoon, like Mortal Kombat got one.
Police Academy.
Yeah.
My name right now.
Yes.
I bought one. Bill and Ted.
Bill and Ted got a cartoon, yes. In the orange. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. You know, that may have greased a lot of wheels back in the 80s. Back in what Stephen King refers to as the coke-soaked 80s.
Is that what he called it?
Yeah, because that's when he was addicted. He got it.
Conan.
Oh yeah.
That's right, yeah, Conan. The couple in the center over there. Mr. T got a cartoon. Yes, absolutely. What? Cher?
Is it Sunny Ann?
Yes.
Sunny Ann Cher?
Did she get a cartoon?
Wow, I missed that.
I'll have to look that up. Way in the back, sir. Yes, RoboCop got her cartoon. It was awful.
Another R-rated movie with a television's cartoon.
I bought another one. And it's another person, Chuck Norris.
Chuck Norris and the Karate Commandos. You can get that series.
Yes, sir.
Ghostbusters.
Yep, someone said Ghostbusters. Yep.
I'll tell you the most obscure one. Apparently Rubik's Cube got one.
Yep, Rubik's. They were kind of popular in the 80s. Yes. Yes, they did. Possible fodder for Bad Anime Bad sometime in the future.
Pac-Man?
Pac-Man and Ms. Pac-Man. The Saturday Starcade. There was a lot of shows. There were CBS brokered a deal. They had a block of programming called the Saturday Starcade that had Dragon's Lair, Space Ace, Pac-Man, which also included Ms. Pac-Man. Let's see. No, not Kangaroo didn't get a cartoon. Donkey Kong, but that wasn't part of the Saturday Starcade. But let's see, there was another one. Oh, Qbert. Qbert got a cartoon.
Mario.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, all right, I gotta share a story. Is there anyone under 18 here? Okay, there are? Okay, so I'll keep this clean. A coworker of mine was at a wrestling event, and he saw Lou Albano, Captain Lou Albano, walking by on his way to his seat, and he's like, Captain Lou! And he's like, hey! And then he starts doing the move your hip from side to side, and he made a certain gesture in response to that. An unkind gesture.
I was at a Toy Fair Expo in New York City many moons ago when G.I. Joe was really big and they were pushing the toys to the stores. And at the end, there was a maze you had to go through, like a rat maze where they had different people presenting different toys and different videos. And at the end was Sergeant Slaughter, and you had to talk to Sergeant Slaughter for a moment. Now I'm 5'6", and Sergeant Slaughter was about yay wide and this tall. I had no idea he was that short. Yes?
Laser Tag Academy, yes. And here's some other things that played off some cultural touchstones. Actually, let me just move these around a little. This one we talked about. I'm just going to show a little bit of the openings. And the character Janine, we have something to talk about with her. She's at the center of some controversy. Okay. Here's something else that was popular, especially in the 80s. called MTV that came out. It was kind of popular.
I'm taking you to the flip side.
What happened? Ay, ay, ay. We look like cartoons.
You'll be my musical slaves forever.
What's season up? I'll save you. What's going on here? I'll explain later. Let's go.
Wait, did you just Doctor Who us? I'll explain later. No. So, now there's a bit of irony around kid video. Now, on one hand, my wife, her mother is incredibly Catholic and would not let her watch MTV. So that kid video was about the only way that she could watch music videos. Reason why it'll probably never come out is a lot of is music rights. Music rights scatter around all over the place, and there's no way they'd be able to show the show and get the rights to all the songs that were used in it. The irony about kid video is, who's heard of Haim Saban? Haim Saban, of Saban Productions, you know, Power Rangers? Yeah, that was one of his first entries into moving from music production to television production. He and Shuki Levy was a musician, Haim Saban was the producer. They crafted a lot of the soundtrack of our shared youth. Inspector Gadget, Jason the Wheeled Warriors, etc., etc. All the music for kid video, etc., etc. And from what I've read and interviews and other stuff like that, Haim Saban is basically Master Blaster there. You know, he's a bit of a snake. He's a wheeler and dealer when it comes to business, and how appropriate that, hey, I know, I'm a music producer, I'll make a show about an evil music producer who's enslaving musicians. Later on, one of the cast members, Robbie Rist, the original Cousin Oliver, the guy with the blonde hair and the glasses, that's Robbie Rist, actual musician, really good musician, said, yeah, Haim Saban came up with a great way to make a profit off a cartoon. Don't pay your actors. So yeah, plenty of cultural touchstones. Even stuff that I will not show you because they're absolute garbage. Who remembers Turbo Team? Yeah, years ago a friend of mine asked me, was there a Saturday morning cartoon where a guy turns into a car? And I'm like, yeah, Turbo Team. He's like, it was real? Because he had somewhere seen like a piece of footage or an animated GIF of this kid's face getting stretched into the front grille of his car. That car was the same model as Kit from Knight Rider. However, Ruby Spears missed the mark by about a year, because by the time Turbo Team came out, the Knight Rider was already failing enough in the ratings that it was going bye-bye. Is that a hand up back there?
Oh yeah, I got a question.
Well, I bet the guy all the way up against the back wall. Okay, because you're doing this. Okay, yes?
Okay, is it just a coincidence that the character in the kid video named Master Blaster shares the same name as a Mad Max character?
I don't know. I mean, Mad Max was an Australian production. I don't know if George, I'm blanking on his last name, the guy behind Mad Max, I don't know if he ever saw the cartoon. Also, both would have been possibly in production around the same time. Kid Video was 84, Beyond Thunderdome came out in 86, which means that movie would have been in production for at least a year. So it could have just been a funny coincidence, just one of those little weird flashpoints in the 80s. Who knows? Yeah, the term Master Blaster is not a new term. You know, it's just a play on words. Who knows when it started? Decades before that, maybe even. What are you about to say?
No, I see a hand over there.
Oh, yes. Who? What? Where? When? Why?
Two different what?
Yes.
Oh boy.
Yeah, Filmation did a live-action TV show. Filmation did live-action and animated stuff. And shows that had a bit of both. One that I'm loath to mention is Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids. Yeah.
Well, with okay, never mind. I just forgot.
Let's see.
Ghostbusters. One of them was called The Real Ghostbusters. The other one was Ghostbusters. So one of them had predated the movie.
The live action series Ghostbusters, the Filmation series, predated the movie. They actually the production for the movie Ghostbusters had to get clearance. Had to basically paid a little bit to get the rights to use that name. When Ghostbusters was a huge success, a runaway success, they obviously, oh hey, let's make a cartoon about this. And then Filmation said, well, you know what, we have the rights to Ghostbusters as well, so thus came the Ghostbusters, Real Ghostbusters split, and there was, at the same time, a Filmation Ghostbusters cartoon, done in their unique style. You know, two guys and a gorilla, because reasons.
The unique's the right word for that. The unique's definitely the right word for that.
Yeah. Fun little fact, for those who remember some of the Filmation shows, the two producers, the two heads of the studio, let's see, Scheimer and I forget the other guy's name, you might remember they had like a rotating thing with had their production credits at the end of the episode. Mm-hmm. They came up with that because one didn't want to have their name over the other. I don't want your name over mine. Well, I don't want your name over mine. So they came up with the rotating credit bed to so this way, it's like a TV production equivalent of the round table.
Yes.
Here's another weird '80s flashpoint. For some reason, now who here has seen Firefly and Serenity? Okay, the idea of melding, Old West, Wild West movies with science fiction is not new, and three shows all came out between '86 and '87 that had a mix of both. And since Filmation came up, here's one. was brought through by the same people who brought Voltron to America. Oh. They were trying to replicate their success there, and it didn't fly as well. But you know, personally,
interestingly enough, in Star Musketeer Bismarck, the Japanese version, the hero was the guy in the red costume who drove a race car. But in the English version, they decided to make the English guy, the sidekick who rode a horse, into the main hero.
Yeah. But if you watch the whole series from beginning to end, when it gets to like the last 10 or 12 episodes, especially the last like 6 or 7, you can see that this guy, Fireball, is the main character. The guy, the red race car driver, not the other guy. So they could only write so much around it. But they actually went to the expense. They went to Studio Pierrot, who did the original show, Space Musketeer Bismarck, and commissioned them to animate at least 3 to 5 new episodes to fit the storyline that they came up with.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and then here's one of my personal favorites.
In 2086, 2 peaceful aliens journeyed toward, seeking our help. In return, they gave us the plans for our universal hyperdrive, allowing mankind to open the doors to the stars. We have assembled a team of unique individuals to protect Earth and our allies. Courageous pioneers committed to the highest ideals of justice, dedicated to preserving law and order across the new frontier. These are the adventures of the Galaxy Rangers.
So, one of my favorite memories of the show. Now, depending on who was writing, some of these episodes can still hold up. Sure, they're within the constraints of a lot of 80s stuff, but this show had a body count. And in 1986, that was unheard of. But it also had one of my favorite general science fiction missives when the Rangers have co-opted the reluctant help of a space pirate to help them infiltrate the big bad's secret lair. And they do it with such panache and aplomb that this like 6.5 foot tall talking parrot kind of bird avian character with a little monkey on his shoulder, named Captain Kidd, just leans forward and is like, "You humans are crazy. Outer space will never be the same." And I'm like, I like that idea.
The cast for the voices was absolutely fantastic. Peter Fernandez was the director of the soundtrack and the voices and everything, and he was the voice of Speed Racer back in the 60s, and he was the voice of Hayata in the live-action Ultraman when it came over to America in 1966. He was the director of those Americanizations. And Karine Orr, wonderful person, beautiful sweetheart. Karine Orr was Trixie. And in this, she was the evil queen of the crown.
Yeah. I got to hang out with them for part of a day at a Zenkaikon at least 15 years ago when they were guests here. One of the staffers had to go pick them up. He was very tired because con organizing is not easy. I said, "Do you want me to go with you? Make sure you stay awake." He's like, "Yeah." So we go, we pick them up, and I realized, oh my gosh, I've just like inserted myself into hanging out with Peter Fernandez and Karine Orr. And as we're coming back as we're going to the convention, one of the other actors on Galaxy Rangers, Jerry Orbach, Lenny Briscoe from Law and Order, among many, many other roles. Let's see, Baby's dad in Dirty Dancing, etc., etc. I got to talk to the two of them about it a little bit, and Karine at first didn't remember the Queen of the Crown, but the memory must have come back because I'm sitting in the front passenger seat, And then I hear, right behind me, I hear her ease into the character. And I'm looking straight ahead, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm sitting in front of the Queen of the Crown. This is awesome! I'm 16 again.
In 1994, at a New Jersey convention called Anime East, I was the guest liaison for Peter Fernandez and Krenor, and Billy Lil Watt, who was Kimba the White Lion and Astro Boy. And now I'll tell you, I never gush over celebrities when I meet them, and I rarely talk to them about their work. I talk to them about other stuff. You know, I had breakfast with the president, I shook hands with the Pope. I'm not really a gushy guy, but when I got to hang out with Kimba and Trixie and Speed, oh my God! I was a geeky fanboy for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
Peter Fernandez taught me how to do Lando Malari from Babylon 5. See, the problem with Lando is you have to understand that English is not his first or second or third language. And he's always thinking about what to say next. So they get that pacing. Lord Rifa, you encourage that fool Cartagia to wage war on all our frontiers. You will now encourage otherwise. You will bring half of our forces home to defend Centauri Prime. And you will have nothing to do with Mr. Morden and his associates. You have walked away from the greatest power I have ever known. Why do you think I will do the same? You will do it because I've asked you. You will do it because it is best for our people. And you will do it because I have poisoned your drink. Lando was such a great character.
Oh yeah. Speaking of J. Michael Straczynski, I'm glad you brought him up. He's no announcements yet, but he has been working on trying to do a reboot of Babylon 5. And now that serialized entertainment, long form stories are more greatly accepted by television producers, by television studios, there's a chance that he might be able to get a contract saying, I get 5 years, and you only get to cancel it if the ratings dip below a certain level.
Straczynski's background is in cartoons.
Yes,
he wrote a lot of them. He also produced and created Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future, which was the most successful attempt to do an American Sentai show out of American and Canadian resources.
Sentai?
Yeah, it was an attempt at doing a Sentai show.
Oh, okay. So pre-Power Rangers.
No, Power Rangers was taking a Japanese product and Americanizing it. This is making an American Sentai
making it
show
out
from
of
scratch.
cloth.
Because they had one with professional wrestlers in Hollywood that would turn into a knight in shining armor and fight monsters. Can't remember the name of that one. But there were like 3 or 4 attempts to do Sentai shows, and this one we'll talk again about it when we talk about merchandise tie-ins. But he also wrote for one of the earlier iterations of My Little Pony, which is why he wouldn't let Lauren Faust use Firefly, and she had to make up Rainbow Dash's name, because she wanted to use the name Firefly. And he said, no, My Pony, you can't have her.
Straczynski did this?
Yes.
I would, citation needed, please, I want to see your source.
I'll show you.
That sounds fascinating.
I will show you, but yeah, My Pony, mine, you can't have her.
No, my toy. This is my toy, you make your toy. And she did.
Yeah, she basically had been playing with My Little Pony toys as a little girl and made up personalities, which ended up being used in her cartoon.
But I mentioned the real Ghostbusters. Janine Melnitz became a character of some controversy. Straczynski was a writer on the show, and he wrote an article, a great article, in, of all things, why it got published in Penthouse Magazine, I have no idea, in June of '91. He wrote an article called Who Watches the Watchmen? And this is actually a good entry into this segment of the presentation. He wrote an article talking about the kinds of people who were being hired and paid big salaries to consult on cartoons and children's entertainment in general. And some people had, and a lot of these people were brought in by television studios, by networks, because there was mounting and more mounting pressure by parents groups starting in the 60s, and then started to get actual legislation on the books through the FCC in the early 70s. And like Robert has said, the parents groups to eliminate fun in cartoons. And for the longest time, I wholeheartedly agreed with that. But recently I found something that I'll get to in a little bit that shed a little more light, a little more of a, call it devil's advocate. Made me understand some of what they were talking about. But still, mostly, yeah, it was killing fun in cartoons.
So poor Janine.
Janine Melnitz. So
Ghostbusters secretary.
Ghostbusters in general, I mean, there was dark material. They're fighting creatures that are either things that go bump in the night or dead things. But it starts off with little things. Oh, instead of Netherworld, or instead of Underworld, how about Netherworld? Little suggestions like that. And then they get more and more. This Janine character, do you think you could make her into more of a nurturing mother figure? So
instead of this hard-edged Brooklyn B word,
there's someone who's not going to take anyone's crap. Good old chip on the shoulder New Yorker. Sassy clothes, sassy hair, sassy attitude, all of it. And she was great, and she was pretty faithful to the original movie character. But I noticed over time, and that article confirmed what I suspected, that the hair was getting straighter and longer. The glasses went from the sharp, pointy cat eye glasses to these big round things and longer skirts and long sleeves. No more tank top and short skirts. And much softer personality. They may have even recast the actor. I'm not sure about that. And it was not good.
Didn't they work that into a later episode?
Well, Straczynski was so disgusted by the meddling that was going on by these high-paid consultants, these watchmen, some of whom go in with an agenda. And Mark Evanier writes about this as well, the guy I mentioned before. He quit the show. And then eventually they were like, can you please come back and fix this thing? We want to try to breathe some life back into this, keep the franchise going. And he said, I will come back if you let me fix what was done to Janine. And there's an episode called Janine, You've Changed, where we find out that the reason why, now who is who's Janine? Who can we all see that Janine has got the hots for among the Ghostbusters? Egon. So what we find out in this episode is Janine thought she was in tune with a fairy godmother who was trying to, I want Egon to notice me, I want Egon to like me. So this fairy godmother, which was actually a horrifying demon, was kind of remolding her slowly into this, into what Janine thought she had to be to get Egon to like her. And the episode ended with it finally being defeated, and slowly, she's slowly making her way, transitioning her way back to the Janine we knew. Then came Slimer and the real Ghostbusters, and it all went to hell in a handbasket anyway.
But the Ghostbusters, my favorite episode, was where they went up against H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu.
Great episode.
And my favorite line was Egon explaining to the rest of the Ghostbusters that, Cthulhu is something to take seriously. He says, this guy makes Gozer look like Sweet Mary Sunshine.
Yeah.
The name of the episode is Cthulhu Calls Collect.
Yep. Yep. And because H.P. Lovecraft had his, in his legacy, had his works open license. Other people could write stuff in his universe. And there's a handful of authors who've done really great things with that. So getting the okay to do a Cthulhu episode of Ghostbusters was easy. And while I haven't read much Lovecraft or his followers that came later, a friend of mine, Chet, the head of live programming, said, he's like, yeah, that they got so much right with that episode. So good on them. Oh yeah, no, it's a silly old thing.
Brian, can you go to my file and Thunderbirds Argo?
Thunderbirds.
Let's see, where it comes.
Is that one? Spycraft is A Day the Kid Sat Still.
Day the Kid Sat Still. It should go on for Thunderbird.
Opening titles?
Yep. Under key.
Here we go. So, do you want to give a little intro for who is familiar with Thunderbirds as a TV show? Okay, then for the rest of you, this is going to be revelatory.
This was there was a British studio called 21st Century Entertainment, run by a guy named Gary Anderson and his wife, whose name I forgot. And they had really cool mecha designs in their ships. In the I mean, they did a whole bunch of shows. Supercar was black and white. Fireball XL5 was black and white, about spaceships. Stingray was color. It was about submarines and spies. Thunderbirds was, you know, international rescue. We have all these cool mecha that do all this. Funny thing is, all their mecha were designed by a Japanese national who'd been living in England. Then he went back to Japan and created a set of bubblegum cards called SOS Blue Earth, which in the 90s was turned into an OVA. So it comes around and goes around. Oh, by the way, just another coincidence. Anyone remember Robbie the Robot from Forbidden Planet? And the robot, the unnamed robot from Lost in Space? Also a Japanese mecha designer who was working in the West and then went back to Japan. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he died about 2 years ago. So there's some stuff on him on the internet. So here's some Thunderbird, here's the opening title to Thunderbirds.
Now, it has a bit of a unique production value that you might recognize from other things.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thunderbirds are go.
Explosions everywhere.
Yeah, so Super Marionation was what that was called. Who's seen Team America World Police? Yeah, the, I thought it was longer. Okay, let's see. I'll check that in a second. Yeah, what do you call it? Trey Parker and Matt Stone wanted to do a Thunderbirds movie, but someone else was already doing a live-action adaptation, and they're like, okay, well, you know, we'll do our own puppet movie, and thus Team America.
And a Japanese animation studio made a cartoon called Techno Voyagers, with a B instead of a V, so they could put TB on the side of all their vehicles. And when Gary Anderson found out that there was this ripoff being made in Japan, he went to them and hired them to do an extra 12 episodes and licensed the whole thing, and it became Americanized as Thunderbirds 2086.
Yes, I'm checking to make sure how much time we have left, because Legacies.
Legacy.
So the sea monsters.
Up there. Talk about Cthulhu.
No, we're on until 11:30. So we got time. Yeah, no, go for it. Go for it.
Then, well, Legacy.
Introduction.
So, like I said, so they talked about what were the dates?
Vaguely. Okay. The big
60s through 90s.
Yeah, the big three networks started to pull back on Saturday morning cartoons around 95, 96.
Well, I'm the rebuttal to that. Because Saturday, personally, coming from somebody who was born So the 2000s, from the year 2000 and onward, and it still lives on today in segments, but it's still around. But Legacy, the early 2000s were big on bringing certain things back that didn't work the first time around. So one of my favorite examples is Sonic. Sonic, the 80s cartoon, it didn't age too well, but they brought it back in the early 2000s in the form of Sonic X. Now Sonic X it's a crossbreed. I call it a crossbreed. It's a cross between anime and cartoons. So, let me just show you the intro, which is one of my favorites.
I know that.
You never seen the
Which one?
I gave you the wrong mic, sorry.
Sonic intro?
This one.
Was it animated in Japan?
I think it was actually, yes it was.
Okay.
Originally, and then they brought it over, and it kind of stuck. It was on 4Kids because the CW has been putting out hits for a long time. And another show, now, actually, before I finish, Sonic X is kind of, it brought forth a lot of the older video games. It brought a lot of their stories into the mainstream, like a lot back into like the youth's like attention, because it was only 2 seasons. I remember that much for sure. And the second season was basically an entire adaptation of Sonic Adventure 2. So they brought in Shadow the Hedgehog and his whole story, and it was very interesting because it basically ties into a lot of the early 2000s where how do I describe it? What is it called? The people who were vying for really dumbing down cartoons. The censors.
Yep,
the censors.
Censor, broadcast standards and practices, the Watchmen.
Yeah, they let their grip slip just a little bit. And it brought forth a lot of amazing TV shows, which is why I'm sure a lot of you guys know Teen Titans. So let me just show you the intro, or let me remind you of the intro, for those of you who haven't watched it in a while.
Now, the creator of the next show, as Carolyn said, the censors weren't looking. And they especially weren't looking on Sunday mornings because they were otherwise occupied. They're all in church.
They're all in church over the golf course.
So a Sunday morning cartoon came out that, well, Just play it. Speaking of Cthulhu, the green one was voiced by Cobra Commander, Chris Latta himself. Its name was Decompose, and if it touched you, you would decompose and your flesh would melt off your skeleton.
Yeah, so...
Decompose!
Yeah, imagine the guy who did the voice of Starscream and Cobra Commander, Decompose! And things did.
Yeah, they were amazed that they got it on and then it lasted as long as it did.
Yeah. Okay. Fun stuff.
So now, but I want to go back to one more thing. Now there was, now going back to legacy, the word legacy. There's one show. Well, the guy unfortunately left it, but there's a show that's been going on for a very long time. It was originally a Japanese Sentai.
Yes, Sentai.
Sentai, and it's continued for 40, 60-ish years, and it's still going. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of it. It's called Power Rangers. Now, rest in peace to Jason David Frank. May he rest in peace. He was the original Red Ranger, White Ranger, Green Ranger, and what I grew up knowing him as the Black Ranger from Dino Thunder. So let me, I've been rewatching that now. Let's show you guys the intro to Dino Thunder.
There's a light in the distance. See them coming closer with the force of ages. Centuries gone by, protectors of the right, defenders sworn to fight. Dino Rangers roar, Power Rangers score. Save us from these evil forces. Victory is ours forevermore. Protectors of the right, defenders sworn to fight. Dino Rangers roar, Power Rangers score. Save us from these evil forces. Dino Rangers win, power within. Victory is ours forevermore.
Now, Power Rangers, it's fallen off, but its legacy lives on, and it continues to this day.
Does anyone remember when the first Power Rangers season came out? Well, because I wasn't a Power Rangers watcher. Was it like 94, 93?
Yeah. What, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers?
Yeah. When?
What one was
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers?
Yes.
Yes.
You know what it was?
93?
93?
Okay.
I think 1995 or...
93.
Now, I remember, when I was on staff at the first Anime East in 94, I remember Power Rangers was already out, so I think he's right. I think it's 93.
Well, I and Saban have been trying to bring over Sentai shows since 1983. So it took him 10 years to actually, strike lightning in his in the barrel.
Yeah, it became a big staple for after-school entertainment.
And another thing that came on a lot from that era, the early 2000s, that brought a lot of the 2000s children into anime was from the Cartoon Network. After, I believe it was 6 p.m. on weekdays and weekends, I believe as well, they would play Toonami. Now, Toonami played, if I remember, it was like 3 or 4 shows. My favorite was Naruto, One Piece, and, well, since we're at Zenkaikon, one of the most important animes, to popularize the genre here in America, Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball Z.
Don't stop, we're enough now. Don't stop, there's so much to be found. We can't find paradise. All we have to do is stop the free soul.
not, obviously, as you can see, this is not the original version of Dragon Ball. They did not show Dragon Ball Z because Dragon Ball Z had the biggest problem. It was, as most of us know who watched Dragon Ball, is Dragon Ball Z's biggest problem is its filler arcs. Its filler will freeze. Philip Perry, the people, he tells the story all the time. He tells me the story all the time about Dragon Ball Z. I'll make it really short. It was about, they went it takes about 3 months. It took about 3 months for Dragon Ball to get from Japan, translate it, then to America. Now, they went to Japan, and when they left for Japan, there was early on in the Frieza arc. 3 months later, they were still there. He was still fighting Frieza, and they're like, I'm never gonna finish this arc.
Yeah, because the manga had gotten way ahead of the anime, so the animators started making up stuff. My favorite episode of Dragon Ball was one of those made-up episodes where Goku and Vegeta Goku and Piccolo learn how to drive.
Best filler ever.
To this day, it's still one of the best fillers ever. But what Kai did was it cut out a lot of the unnecessary fat from Dragon Ball Z. And they did change some lines that are better in the original than Kai, but it needed a cosmetic touch-up to get rid of a lot of the dulled-down color.
Cut out a lot of the dead weight.
Yeah, because in Japanese, the first time we see Vegeta, he's eating what looks like a ham bone. And then you realize it's a human leg, and he's sitting on a pile of 150 bodies and eating them. That would not play in Peoria. So go on.
Now, it definitely, there was a lot of things that Dragon Ball Z needed to touch up on. Vegeta's red hair. If any of you guys don't remember, also the first time you see Vegeta on a different planet, his hair, it's not all black like it normally is. It's black, but in the color streaks that you see, that there's, thin individual hair strands, you see that it's red. So they need to fix that because that made no sense. But other than that,
Got another show?
Yes, I do actually. I actually do have one more because Disney's Disney, and always has to have their hand in everything. They created a lot of good shows, and one of my favorites that I used to watch a lot was Kim Possible.
Oh my god, I love that show.
And I'm here to say good. Can't stop me 'cause I'm impossible. There is nothing I can't do. The danger comes, just know that I'm on my way. Doesn't matter where or when there's trouble. If you just call my name, impossible. Only big man, you wanna reach back when you wanna reach me. But you need me, baby. Call me big man if you wanna reach me. Doesn't matter where, doesn't matter when. I will be there for you till the very end. Danger or trouble, I'm there on the double. You know that you always get wrong, impossible. Big man, if you wanna reach me.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, so my favorite character in this whole show is Shigo. Shigo, Raven, and Blackfire. There's a type there. There's a type joke to be made there, but I can't be, one to say it.
You have a type.
Yeah, I have a type.
Incredibly snarky, snide, superioristic.
Yeah, what they said. But Shigo should have had the win so many times on Kim. She has superpowers, but Kim always manages to just slip in.
Well, there's an episode where Shigo is waving her plasma sheathed claws at Kim, misses Kim, and cuts off a piece of metal. Slices it right off what it was attached to. And then Kim uses to block all of Shigo's future attacks.
Actually, there's a clip.
If she could cut right through it, Why is all of a sudden she not able to cut through it while she's pulling her punches? Because she loves fighting with Kim Possible and doesn't want it to end. This is her favorite game. And there's a lot of subtext under that relationship between Kim and Shiga.
She'd call her Kimmy.
Yeah, it was
or princess.
It was being hinted at very strongly by the animators.
So we're going to turn the page, literally and figuratively. We haven't touched much on the educational aspect. So I mentioned the parents groups.
So the FCC eventually said, well, you got to produce a certain percentage of your screen time has to be for educational purposes. And some shows would like shoehorn some education into them. We had the incredibly boring and dull C-Lab 2020, which I guess was scientifically educated because that's a seahorse. Look, see, it's a seahorse. But I think it was ABC. Well, NBC. It was Channel 7, whichever network that was. Channel 7 in New York started running these music videos. And the music videos would teach you like mathematics or grammar or American history. And the history ones were all garbage. I speak as a history teacher. They were all garbage. And many of them were horribly offensive. It makes you cringe to watch them these days. But the math ones are great. The math ones helped me get through high school.
Grammar Rock was pretty good.
Grammar Rock was awesome. And the most popular of the Grammar Rocks was talking about how to use conjunctions in a sentence.
Been waiting for conjunction, junction.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function? Hooking up words and phrases and clauses. Conjunction, junction, how's that function? I got 3 favorite cards that get most of my job done. Conjunction, junction, what's their function? I got and button on, they'll get you pretty far. And that's an additive like this and that. But that's sort of the opposite, not this, but that.
This is a fairly long song, so we might as well go on to the next topic. But it's a very good song.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function? Hooking up 2 boxcars and making them run right. Milk and honey, bread, butter, peas and rice. Hey, that's nice. Dirty but happy, digging and scratching, losing your shoe and a button or 2. He's pouring on a Santa too. Conjunction, junction, what's your function? Hooking up 2 cards to 1 when you say something.
Yeah, that was, Schoolhouse Rock was a big deal in its time. Here's one of my little personal favorites. This one's really short. I was an avid reader. I read many books. Even if a lot of it was like crap action adventure fiction, I still read a lot on my own. And so I could get behind this guy.
Here's an ordinary sidewalk on an ordinary day. But did you ever stop to think that you could get away, take a journey on a rocket, take a voyage on a ship? Just read a book and off you go, because reading is a trip. Explore a tropic jungle. Discover distant planets. Or reach the glacier's tip. Just read a book and off you go, because reading, yes, is a trip.
So ABC, their formula was, let's do a bunch of short segments, stuff that we can that we can do on the cheap and get into there. I also like the fact that OG Readmore is actually pretty well animated too. I appreciated that. But what it took me a long time to find out about was what the parents groups were pushing against. Obviously, violence. They didn't want violence that could be replicated by kids.
I got a story for that.
Exactly. But also advertising. A lot of them, especially the toy-driven shows, were looked at as, this is just a 30-minute long commercial. And this led to some legislation that I heard about, even when I was a kid. I heard about that, commercials, basically episodes had to be a little bit longer, so less time for commercials.
Less profit for the studio, less profit for the network.
Yeah, but also, and now this one made sense, you couldn't show a commercial for the toy during the same cartoon. You couldn't have G.I. Joe toy commercials during G.I. Joe. You could have Transformers, or GoBots, or whatever.
That led us to He-Man, where they had entire episodes that were just showing off toys.
Yeah, and of course the little PSAs at the end of these episodes is also part of what grew out of this parent pressure groups. But here, I found something that they were pushing against, and it kind of made a bit of sense. This is from 1969. This is from a cartoon that ran from 65 to 69 called Linus the Lionhearted. Now I'm going to show you a little bit of the beginning, and then I'm going to ask you a question. So, where does the show stop and the commercials start? If you're 6, 7, 8 years old, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. So this is some of the deceptive, now obviously Post was a sponsor of the show, they were paying the bill to have this made, but also, and then after, opening titles goes into, here's our sponsors, and then it literally goes into a commercial. The show hasn't even started up to this point yet. Yeah, that's not an adventure in the show. That's a continuation of the ad. This is one of the things that the parents groups were pushing against. And very shortly after they started to get some real traction in government, this show got canceled. So it adds a bit of perspective. At least I can understand what part of the groove of what they were going for. But when it came to, say, cartoon violence from shows like, say, Space Ghost, Herculoids, and Johnny Quest.
66 episodes of Space Ghost, he took prisoners 3 times. The other 63, they died. If your crime doesn't pay, it gets you killed by Space Ghost.
Yeah, good was good, bad was bad, and evil was punished.
Mm-hmm.
Only one villain ever survived an episode of Johnny Quest, and that was only because he wasn't on scene, he was working through a remote-controlled robot. Dr. Zinn.
Okay, so now we're talking about the censorship and the violence, and what I referred to earlier is the non-emulative clause. You can't show any violence on television that a child can emulate. The guy who created Johnny Quest, one of the all-time greatest cartoons, also created Planet of the Apes, which was a cultural touchstone because the Planet of the Apes live-action movies were really big. So there's a Planet of the Apes cartoon where the apes are driving around in trucks, And they've got rifles, but they're not allowed to hold the rifles or shoot the rifles. So the rifles are always slung on their backs. And Doug Wildey, the guy who created these shows, was really angry with that. So he said, I want to have them fighting. I want to have them shooting. So he said to the studio, I want the apes to have howitzers. Howitzer is this big honking cannon that fires shells, you know, long distance, great height. And they looked at it and they said, well, if a kid conceivably got their hands on it, they wouldn't be able to lift the 100-pound shells to put into the howitzer. They wouldn't be able to prime the gun. Yeah, okay. You can have howitzers.
What's the complicated process of loading and firing and aiming it?
Next episode, every 3 apes were firing a howitzer. It was a war between the apes and the mutants. And the last episode was the apes would have a giant gorilla. And the mutants would have a giant lizard that looked suspiciously like Godzilla. And they canceled it before then, and Doug Wildey said, I have turned my back on television and will never go there again.
Dragon Ball's also took a lot of like that censorship stuff. When Frieza bisects himself with his I forget what his
spinning buzzsaw.
With the spinning buzzsaw, that got censored and then got censored again. Because originally, like when Dragon Ball first did it, killed Frieza the first time, it was pretty gory. I don't say gory because it wasn't that bad.
It was vivid.
Was he ripped to pieces?
Yes,
it's gory.
Okay, but there was blood in that one. And then when they redid it again, when they redid Z for a more younger-ish audience, they took away the blood. They took away the blood, but it was just red. And then they censored it again, where they took away all of the red and just left it. It looks like he's hollow inside. He was never real to begin with.
I'm drinking root beer. Ding. I'm drinking apple juice. Ding. I'm drinking beer.
Yeah, Dragon Ball so eventually just was like, we're just gonna cut all of that.
Oh, actually, speaking of Toriyama, I saw this ad again. So I was a teenager through the 80s when, what was it, Dragon Quest, when one of the animes came over. When one of the Dragon Quest animes was adapted into English, there's a scene where the main character and this lecherous wizard that he's teamed up with are in town, and this babe pops up and she's like, "Hey guys, do you want tickets for the bullfight?" And he's like, and the wizard's like, "Yeah!" And the hero's like, "I don't know if we should." And I'm like, oh, she is so totally not selling tickets to a bullfight. Saber Rider and the Star Sheriffs. They came up with an interesting way to work around the rampant violence in the show, because you got, in the original show, it's aliens versus humans. This was, I knew it was not the original, but I could tell it was a twist to, are you trying to find your phone? No. Okay. It was a twist to try to find, to get around the violence in there and not have to just cut everything out or say they're all robots. Was they changed the story so that the bad guys, the aliens, were actually beings from another dimension, the vapor dimension, and when you shoot them down, they vaporize and go back to their own dimension. I'm like, okay. I know that's not, I didn't have to know the original. I'm betting that's not what happened in the original show, but I had to give him credit. That was actually a pretty clever idea. A way to work around all the zap, zap, slash, slash, kaboom.
Well, the problem with
that question?
I believe the Conan show did something similar. The bad guys were all from another dimension, so it was sending them back into another dimension.
The BS and P dimension.
Yeah, but like, the problem with censorship is like,
one of the Dragon Quest cartoons in Japan that never came over, when you killed a monster, it turned into a jewel. And then you'd pick it up and use it for like spending money.
So, favorites. If you got a favorite in mind, raise your hand. So let's start over here and work our way across. Yes?
Ben 10.
Ben 10. There you go.
Amazing.
Legacy show. Yes.
Gundar the Barbarian.
Oh, great show. You know who's one of the people who worked on that? Jack Kirby.
Yes.
You let a mock fly a helicopter?
Lady over here.
Care Bears, yes.
Digimon.
Digimon? Okay.
Jason the Wheeled Warriors.
Oh, good show. Yes. Yeah. What's that?
Casper and Friendly Ghost.
Interesting. Yes, in the red. Reboot. Such a good show. All the way in the corner over there. All the way back first. Teal wig.
Mummies Alive.
Ooh, interesting choice. Yes, sir.
We're just talking about Tsunami, but you forgot about Big O.
Big O. Big O. There you go. Yes. Okay, we're in lightning round time. We gotta go fast. Yes.
DuckTales.
DuckTales. Which version?
Either.
Okay, yeah. Hell of a legacy. Going down the way. Yes.
Invader Zim.
Invader Zim. Good choice. Yes.
Sigmund the Sea Monster.
Oh, interesting choice. Live action. Yes.
Zoid.
Was that?
Zoid.
Zoids. Yes. Both. Yeah. Both of you. Which one?
SWAT Cats.
Oh,
Amazing.
Oh, so good. Yes.
The Fighting Foodons.
Which one?
The Fighting Foodons.
Oh, I know that.
Good show.
Fighting Foodons. You already answered.
How about the Banana Splits?
Bananas. Oh, 1 banana, 2 banana, 3 banana, 4. Yes.
Cat Adventures.
Interesting.
Oh my god.
Yes, middle, back row. Pinky and the Brain. Animaniacs. That show reaped a lot of change on the American animation industry. Really quick, yes. Yes.
Shaolin Showdown.
Interesting. Yes. What's that? I don't remember that one.
Is that the one where a person turned into a giant monkey? Well, Rankin Bass did a co-production with a Japanese studio in 1960, Mumble, where it was the adventures of King Kong and this little kid on the island fighting monsters and such. Then a Japanese studio, Toho, the guys who do Godzilla movies, made a live-action King Kong movie based on one of their episodes of the cartoon, where they fight a villain named Doctor Who and a robot King Kong. So the Rankin Bass cartoon inspired the kaiju movie.
Someone in the back row had their hand up? Yeah.
Amazing
Jack.
Oh my god, that show was great.
Robert, did you have a favorite during the Saturday morning cartoon era?
Yeah, but if I restrict myself to just Saturday morning, it would have been Herculoids. You know, a whole bunch of giant monsters hanging out with some people on a planet that gets invaded all the time. And this planet was so dangerous. I mean, the ants cast lightning bolts out of their antennae. You step on a rock and it'll explode.
This thing?
Somewhere out in space live the Herculoids. Sun, the laser ray dragon. Igu, the giant rock ape. Tundro, the tremendous. Loop and Bleak, the formless, fearless wonders. With Xandor, their leader. And his wife Tara and son Dorno. They team up to protect their planet from sinister invaders.
This planet,
Strong, all free, all
this planet was so dangerous that they had this massive week-long crossover event with Space Ghost, where every one of the villains all his surviving villains got together and tried to kill him. And Brack, the cat dictator, sent him to this planet, because everyone I know who went to this planet died. Except Space Ghost, when he came to this planet, talked to the people, so they didn't kill him.
Yeah. Yeah. Most of the people who either bubbled up from the deep under the ground of Amzot or tried to invade, were generally hostile and had their asses handed to them. But Space Ghost took the right tactic. Yes. Let's see. So, do you have a favorite?
My favorite, oh man. For me, the problem is I have to separate it from the three shows, the three major networks. So Cartoon Network had a show called Code Lyoko. Code Lyoko was amazing. From Nickelodeon had Danny Phantom, and nothing will ever top Danny Phantom.
Danny Phantom, cool.
And Disney, Kim Possible.
Kim Possible, yeah.
So good. Yeah, I unfortunately am kind of split between two shows. They were both filler shows, no toys that were appreciable, maybe just little merch, coloring book, stickers, stuff like that. But one of them had, as a bullied geek during, back before the term geek actually kind of got embraced in Geek Chic, really sang to me because it took the whole social order of high school and turned it on its ear. And also had music done for the show by an amazing rock guitarist. This guy who, did a song, created a song a few of you may have heard. It's called Hotel California.
I love this song.
Everybody thought he'd go real far, but he didn't get a thing from the classes he took. He just wasn't interested in his books. Amy was the smartest girl at school, not very popular, not very cool. 2 kids will be chosen from her to go to school at Galaxy High. Traveling millions of miles through space to go to school in a far-out place. Amy is the sweetheart, girls got a lot to learn here at Galaxy High. Galaxy High, Galaxy High, Galaxy High.
And the other favorite, as someone who was starved for Japanese animation and where it was not nearly as available, this show was so much fun and the animation was gorgeous.
So we're still good that time.
Okay, so why don't I go now? You go? Yeah.
Another legacy. Remember that Dungeons and Dragons Peugeot ad?
Mm-hmm.
Not the only one like it.
There's we'll just play the version without an intro.
Novo Peugeot 208. Dentro dele é outro mundo. Peugeot.
Wacky Racers was a runaway success and spun off 2 different series. One was Penelope Pitstop and the Anthill Mob, and the other one was Dick Dastardly in the Flying Machines and Stop That Pigeon. But wait, there's more. The man in Japan who created Space Cruiser Yamato, the most popular, successful anime ever, Yoshinobu Nishizaki, imported Wacky Racers, had it dubbed into Japanese, and it was phenomenally successful. I went to Japan in 1993, and the biggest show was called Cyber Formula, about a kid who becomes a race car driver. And they didn't say, this is an update of Mach Go Go Go. This is not an update of Speed Racer. They said, this is like Wacky Racers, only serious.
Actually, you know what? That reminds me, speaking of a legacy, who here's seen the movie Redline?
The one
yeah.
movie that inspired Fast and the Furious?
No, it came out way after Fast and the Furious.
After?
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. So talk about a legacy. If I want to sell this, if I want to sell someone on seeing the movie Redline, if they are a certain age or older, I will say to them, try to imagine if the Wacky Races was chronicled in the pages of Heavy Metal magazine.
Yep.
Oh my.
Yeah. Yes.
I will say, one of the Wacky Races spin-off series, like Penelope or whatever, I actually remember seeing it on Boomerang back in the early 2010s, and I had vivid memories of seeing it.
I'm actually, I'd have to verify, I have to check. I think it was the other way around. I think Wacky Races was, let's take a whole bunch of shows we've already done and put all the characters together.
Wacky Races was completely original.
Oh, it was?
And
okay.
Penelope Pit Stop and Stop That Pigeon were both spin-offs. That came later.
That's what I'm saying. I saw the spin-off in like Boomerang on Cartoon's second channel.
Cultural Touchstone.
Yes.
It's a mad world.
Yep.
That's right, yeah. Wacky Races was probably a little, if not a lot, inspired by that.
There was also a very famous comedy called The Great Race, which Wacky Racers, especially Dick Dastardly,
even more so.
Dick Dastardly was just a cartoon version of, I am Professor Fate!
You're right.
Push the button, Max!
Wrong button!
Why do you even have that button, Trunk?
So you're gonna, yes. So, where is it?
Give us a context.
So, personally for me, one of the best card games to ever come out. Because Pokemon is a card game, but it's not, it's more like an anime. But my favorite card game growing up to this day is Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a show that I'm pretty sure still continues to this day, but nothing will ever beat the original of Yukimoto and Seto Kaiba always duking it out.
Let's see the title.
That intro is amazing to this day. It always holds, and it still holds up.
So,
one comment on Yu-Gi-Oh! If this show had come out 10 years earlier, if it had been brought over to America 10 years earlier, it would have been called King of Games. This is the first anime I remember that had an untranslated title when it was brought over to English. Except for things like Dragon Ball Z.
Well, they
Dragon Quest.
turned that title into Yugi's title at the end of the series, the King of Games.
Yep.
And that's sort of the premise of the series that came after it, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX.
The first 12-episode miniseries of Yu-Gi-Oh! They had a different game each episode. And then when they rebooted it for its second TV series in Japan, it became a card game show. But those first 12 episodes, I do not believe they ever made it over to these shores.
Because everyone died.
Well, all right. There's a lot of card monsters that die, dueling monsters that die.
Well, thank you for coming, everybody. We hope you enjoyed this little fun with nostalgia and maybe even learned something.
But everybody dies this year. And I love the fact that I sound like a Zentradi, de Crucio, with this echo and reverb. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
What about daylight?
I'm definitely going to go watch some of it. No, but I will absolutely go watch the big LARP and see what I sound like. Thanks.
The censorship that they have like their bugbear of the week. Just in the sense that there's like some specific like thing.
Thank you so much. That was so great.
Thank you.
Ryan invented it.
That was great.
Great.
I read my childhood on English. That was awesome.
That's why we did all the.
Was your favorite?
That was it. I understood that I was Wolverine. After watching X-Men.
I remember a scene in Thunder the Barbarian with the Clippers. Thunder left the helicopter, he left me in charge. And the princess goes, you have to mock to fly the helicopter? He gets frustrated and kicks the controls out of the machine. It was fantastic.
Soap is your friend. Do not be afraid.
Let's see, Thunder had a really cool villain named Gemini. And Gemini was such a Jack Kirby type character, or a Gona Guy type character.
I was looking at the credits of Thunder. Alex Toth also worked on some of the design.
He also did a lot for Johnny Quest.
Johnny Quest, Space Ghost. I mean, he pretty much designed Space Ghost and the Hercules.
That almost sounds like a rock band.
Said, hey, are you really bulletproof? And the guy was fast enough to think to say, bounce off to somebody else.
Yeah, I was so lucky that I got to hang out with the voice actors because the real guy was
Is it working? Okay, it's working.
So Chad Kaczynski, who's running live programming here, came to me and said, Rob, can you like hang out with the voice actors all weekend and pay for the meals? And I said, why? Sure. I got to meet him with a whiteboard. Astroman. I was nervous, but they were really
so just done.
Yeah, I know. I use him an excuse to sleep.
Yes, they're definitely those. And when Peter Fernandez got to Speed Racer, they didn't get scripts. They had to make everything up according to visuals. And he had 7 days to complete an episode. So in 7 days, they wrote a script, recorded the voices, spliced it into the video, and
Saturday morning cartoons on Big 3 dead, and was just like
there were some episodes that came after other episodes in Japanese.
general,
like in one episode,
not for kids entertainment, and
the
stuff to say it was
boss
like
gets killed. But in America, you
kids
showed
stuff
that anyone thought.
and